Hi, I'm Ruth from Animal Exchange in Rockville, Maryland, and today I thought we'd talk a little bit about rats and mice, both of which make excellent pets. They've been used in research for a long, long time, but we still have in the pet trade some really pretty and very interesting rats and mice that make excellent pets. Rats are very, very smart, and mice are just tiny little creatures that can be fascinating as you watch them interact with each other, and can be very responsive to you also. So today I brought home a number of things. I have a couple mice in a little travel cage, even though ideally for a mouse or a pair of mice I would like to keep them in a 10-gallon tank. We've put our rats in the 10-gallon tank because that's about as heavy a tank as I can carry home, and since both of these are mothers and mothers-to-be, why, they're going to be very comfortable in a small enclosed area right now as they spend all their time working on nursing their babies. One has already delivered, and the other one hopefully will be delivering shortly. So let's talk about the mice first. As with any of the pets that we have, we really think a book is a good starter. The book that we have on mice has some nice pictures in it, but it also has some pretty good advice on how to take care of them. I don't agree with everything in any book, but that's beside the point. It's a great place to start with edited information as opposed to random information that you may pick up on the internet. I know we're on the internet, but I certainly don't agree with everything I see. The mice that we have are actually quite cute, and I tried to pick out mice that would show you the differences that we have. This little guy is a black male, and I wanted to be able to show you, and it may not work as well as I'm hoping, how to tell a boy from a girl. If you look at the tail area between the two hind legs on the little black mouse, what you'll see is that the spacing on the parts is further apart than the spacing on this little gray mouse, who's a girl. And that's the way you can tell. Sometimes you can tell looking down from the top on an older mouse, because the little males will have two lumps on either side of their tail, and that tells you it's a boy. The girl doesn't have that. She just has her spacing a little bit closer. So that's how you tell boys from girls. Colors on mice are fascinating. This one wants to stay on the carrier instead of sitting on my hand today. And mice, fortunately, have a lovely handle. It's called a tail. And so whenever I have a mouse out of the cage, I'm holding on to the tail. I'm not pulling on the tail. I'm following the mouse with the tail so that if he decides to jump, and yes, they can, why, I will be able to keep control over him. Before I handle him, I always wash my hands, because if I have food on my hands, the mouse isn't necessarily going to stop where the food is and not have my finger also. So I've washed my hands before I even take my mice out of the cage. And this little guy, being black, has also got a lovely black tail. Now, the other male that I brought home is sort of a different color. Oh, come on, let go of the veggies. You can eat those when you go back in. This one is a beautiful white satin mouse. My little white mouse is a male also, but he's very different. He's got beautiful shiny white satin coat. And if you look very closely at his eyes, what you'll see is that if it's an albino, it will have pink eyes, but if it is not an albino, and therefore does have some melanin pigment, the eyes will be dark. On this one, I can't really tell. His eyes are quite dark, so he may be a very heavy-pied mouse that doesn't have any black on his fur, but actually has dark eyes. If he's an albino completely, he would have pink eyes. Put him back in with his buddies there. This solid gray one, which might look like a bit like what you have in your house that wasn't a pet mouse. This one is a little agouti gray mouse, and she's a very, very nice, healthy, fat mouse, doing very well. And this one shows another color pattern, which is banding. And this is a little gray banded mouse. It doesn't have the flecking that the other solid gray one does. That would be called a goody, but this one is just a little banded mouse. This one probably would not win a prize in a show, because if you wanted to be showing a banded mouse, you'd like to have a nice even pattern. So this side is lovely, but the other side is sort of like erratic. And if you look at his tail, it's particularly cute because he has a white tip on his tail. To keep a mouse, you would need to have food, obviously, and lab blocks are my choice for food for any of these animals. Because I was giving lots of treats to the mother rats, I gave these guys some bok choy and a little bit of kale so that they could have a snack on the way over. But the lab blocks are their staple diet, and that's important because their teeth grow all the time, and you don't want to have them with overgrown teeth. And the lab blocks are hard, and they will keep those teeth down so that they continue to be aligned properly and the mouse can continue to eat properly. Thank you. I brought a little wheel. Now, we're not going to, excuse me, children, move out of the way and we'll put the wheel in. I don't think they're going to be running on it, but I thought I'd give them a try. A little wheel will hold a little mouse. If I want to have a rat or a chinchilla or one of the larger rodents, I need a bigger wheel. And so I have all sorts of choices in sizes of wheels and types of wheels. There are some solid wheels that don't have the bars. I've never had any problems with the bars. Some people think that it's a problem for their feet or tail, but we've never had any problem with them at all, so I have no problem using the wire wheels. We also like to have chew toys for them in addition to the food that is nice and hard. And so I brought home some wooden blocks that we could put in a small animal cage, and when they were done chewing on food, well, they'd have something else to chew on. If you've ever had a mouse loose in the house, you know they chew on a lot of things. And you'll find a whole nest that's been made up by the mouse in a corner somewhere. These guys are going to play with it on the outside, but they're not going to get into it so far. I brought home a ceramic food bowl that I would use in a mouse or rat cage, but I rarely do, because while I put the food in the bowl, mouse or rat will take the food out, stash it in a corner, and then all you have is a messy bowl to take care of. So, by and large, I will just put the food in the cage like we did with the mice, and they do fine with it. The rats, and I would point out that the book on rats says training your pet rat, are even smarter than the mice. They make wonderful pets. They are extremely good at finding a hole to get out of their cage. And I had a very interesting experience with that when my son had rats. And we didn't notice that the hole for the heater in the top of the aquarium that he was keeping his rats in was just about the right size for a rat to go in and out of. So one night I went into the room and, surprise, here are the rats having a wonderful time running around the room. And as soon as they saw me come in, they ran back to the cage, dove in the hole, and both of them said, no, we weren't doing that at all. It was your imagination. What we have here is a mother rat that delivered babies this morning and another female rat that is quite pregnant and will deliver babies shortly today. It's not uncommon when you have a whole group of rats for the females to all become pregnant at the same time, and therefore they deliver their babies at the same time. So I put them together in a 10-gallon tank, which is too small for a regular cage for a rat. But for the purpose of seeing babies, it'll work pretty well. Mom's cleaning up the babies. She made a nest with a lot of vegetables to start with, and I've pulled the vegetables out, and I'm going to take one of the babies out for us to look at. One of the things that I find most interesting about these little baby animals is that you can see everything as it's developing, and you can see through the skin to see the organs inside. So this nice dark mass here in the center of this little baby rat is its liver. And right below the liver, you see something that's white. I know it's hard to see, but if you had this little baby in your hand, you could see it. And that's actually the milk in the stomach of the baby rat. Its little umbilical cord, or its belly button, is right here. And if you look at its head, you can see where its ears are going to be and where its eyes are going to be. But at 21 days when these little babies are born, they're not very well developed at all. By the time this baby is 3 weeks old, it will look like a miniature of mom, or maybe a miniature of dad, or maybe a miniature of something in between. You can see its little toes on its feet and its little tail. But aren't they cute at this age? I'm going to put this one back in, and as you see, Mama Rat is very busy with the bedding material that I put in. Initially, I just gave her some vegetables so she could have a good snack and have lots of milk for the babies. But as soon as I took the baby out, I thought, well, she'll probably like to have some more privacy. And so, sure enough, she's hauling all that bedding material over immediately into the nest. Mice are going to live about 2 years on an average. Rats, on the other hand, you can get about 4 years out of as pets. And it's not uncommon for us to have people walk into the store with a rat riding on their shoulder or tucked into their jacket or in their pocket, because the rat goes everywhere with them. So if you choose rats or mice, you will have a wonderful pet. Easy to come by. If you decide you want to breed, you can breed all different colors and patterns and develop some maybe that will be unique for you and will provide you with a really interesting experience with genetics. Thank you for listening to our story about mice and rats. We like them as pets. We try to keep their cages extra clean, especially if we happen to have a male mouse, because male mice do have a scent trail that they lay down, and it smells pretty bad. So if you're going to have just pets without breeding, please just get 2 girls. And you know how to sex them now, because we've shown you. The same sexing applies to the rats. The spacing is a little farther apart with the males than it is with the females, but always look at 2 that are the same age. Once they're different ages, sometimes it's really hard to compare, to determine who's the boy and who's the girl. 2 female mice, wonderful pets. To breed, 1 male and however many females you want will enable you to keep track of the genetic patterns that you get in colors, in hair types, in eye color, in fur and coat pattern, and tail length even. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. A wonderful project to raise mice and rats for pets and also for genetics projects. If you're going to raise them, please be sure you have some place to take the babies, because sometimes they're quite prolific, and you will end up with more mice and rats than your family's going to be very happy with. Thank you for visiting our video today. I hope that you have a wonderful time with your mice and rats.